Hey guys, just wanted to do my review of Wonder Woman. This is going to be my spoiler review. I'm not going to do my usual review where it's just like, okay, we do like non-spoiler things and then a section for spoilers because I know the movie's been out all weekend and, I just feel like we've kind of crossed that, threshold, just getting straight into spoilers. And so, if you haven't seen the movie, you can add this to your watch later list to come back and watch it. Go see the movie because it completely lives up to the hype. Like, you will not be disappointed with it. And then come back and we can talk and you can watch my thoughts on it. Like I said, I thought it was a very well made movie. This is not only my one of my this is not only did it blow every other DC extended universe movie out of the water, but I would go as far as to say it's probably one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen, or at least in recent years. It especially has like it was not like the other DCEU movies where it's like it tries to have like a dark tone and it doesn't know how to balance the light and dark, the levity and a dark tone like the last few movies struggled to do, because this has like a lot of, there is darkness in it because of how like brutal it takes place in like World War I. But the thing is that Patty Jenkins, it has mentioned that she was inspired by she was a huge fan of the 1978 Superman movie, and there are even not like little nods to it, and she used that as like a benchmark to establish the tone of this movie. Like there's even like an homage to it when Diana uses her bracelets to deflect a bullet and protect Steve Trevor when they're both walking in an alleyway. And even the fact that where she has to wear a civilian disguise, she's wearing hat and a trench coat, hat and like a trench coat, and then even glasses similar to Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent. And just the fact that it's like she just, and I really they didn't even have to do this, but Wonder Woman, if you ever read any of her comics, she's not like Batman or Superman where she has to live by a no-kill rules because of her background. She is very open to killing her opponents, but Patty Jenkins made a note to that this version of Wonder Woman was only going to kill as a last resort. She can see like beating up people and throwing them around, but maybe she kills like, I don't know, maybe like one or two people, if anything, throughout the fight, or if anybody who dies, like it's just probably like self defense. But the amount of people she kills is like very minimal, and was something I really appreciated, like because. And she, like I said, she didn't have to do this, but I guess because of all the criticism, like Batman and Superman both using lethal force, she had to take this in consideration. She was very optimistic and idealistic and wanted to look for the good in humanity. These are all like traits that you could find in Christopher Reeve's Superman. And I guess like maybe the big gripe is how it starts off like, the movie starts off at like present day. Diana's working in the Louvre. Bruce Wayne sent her the original photo of herself, Steve Trevor, and this like ragtag group of misfits they were working with during their mission in Europe, which is like known as Samir, Charlie, and Chief. And so this is this flashback where she's living on Themyscira. It shows her as like a little girl and how eager she is to go, train and become a warrior. And the child actress, not great. She can use some more like acting classes, but once you get to the I guess more like not like present day, but I guess more like the 1918, where it's like basically Hippolyta, played by Connie Nielsen, doesn't want her daughter to become a warrior, and her aunt, who's the general Antiope, who's played by Robin Wright, says that Diana makes it clear this throughout this movie. She's too stubborn. She's very strong-willed and she's gonna do what she wants. So she is trained by her aunt, and Antiope convinces Hippolyta that she needs to she's going to train no matter what, and she needs to train in order to fight off Ares. And even though they say that the sword that she's carrying around throughout the movie is supposed to be the god killer that's supposed to bring down Ares, it's heavily implied, especially during her training session where she's trained harder than any other Amazonian. Then when she combines her bracelets and sends that shockwave that sends her opponents back, that she is the God Killer, that Zeus created her specifically to use her abilities to take down Ares. And the thing that was a little disappointing was that, I thought it would have been cool to explore, maybe for like a possible sequel idea, to have more of the Greek gods maybe make some kind of appearance. But then it turns out that all of them were apparently killed off screen by Ares, because in a story that Hippolyta tells Diana, in which Zeus created man, and then like Ares like brought out the worst in man, and then Ares was banished from Mount Olympus. Maybe not disappointing, but it's clear they were trying to go through the whole monotheistic route of having Zeus and Ares be like God and Lucifer dynamic, and Ares being the one who brings out the worst in man, and which you would kind of think that Hades would be doing this as the god of the underworld, but anyway, basically Steve Trevor, they have this barrier around the island which prevents people from finding Themyscira, but it's not impenetrable, which is how Steve Trevor's plane crash lands by the island, and unfortunately they're also followed by German soldiers who Steve Trevor was working as a mole for, and they end up invading the island, killing several Amazonians in the process, including Antiope, and so that's why the tiara originally belonged to her, which is not given to Diana, or at least that's what she takes as a result of deciding and hearing about the war, and how basically Danny Houston, who was in X-Men Origins Wolverine as Stryker, and Dr. Poison are working on special mustard gas that's going to cause mass destruction and turn the war in their favor. And so basically so Diana feels like she can't be a bystander, and Hippolyta says that humanity's not worthy of you, and you leave, you can't come back. And Diana really is willing to accept that. And the thing I liked about it is that a lot of the comedy in this could have been kind of cringe-inducing or maybe too forced, but having kind of awkward conversations about reproduction, and is it normal to sleep with a woman or sleep next to a woman you're not with, could have been really awkward, but it just felt like very natural and just worked, and weaved seamlessly into the story. And Chris Pine was great. I mean, he had some pretty good comedic timing, and also he made a great straight man, just reacting to Diana and humoring her. And something about that was a little kind of endearing is how she did have this childlike naivety about the world, thinking oh, I just have to kill Ares and Mankind will go back to being good again, and she has very kind of simplistic black and white view of the world just based on the story Apollo told her, but I guess and Steve just decides to humor her for a while, and even it's kind of very endearing just having her as reacting, having these different dresses women have to wear, and hearing a crying baby in the street, she just walks over with childlike glee, just wanting to hold it. But it was kind of sad how she loses her innocence, just watching the horrors of the war, just how all this horrific it is, and all this suffering, and how she's unwilling to accept collateral damage while working with Steve and company, which is also really endearing. And it's, like I said, also another trait that people complain about in Man of Steel, which is when, Superman didn't care enough about minimizing collateral damage, and she makes a note of that. And something else I also liked about this movie is that this is very much about female empowerment, but it's they don't hit you over the head with it. They show, she Patty Jenkins went with the whole show don't tell, and it doesn't come, and it doesn't come at the, it's not like the Ghostbusters remake where it has to, like, have these like negative stereotypes of men of being like wrong or stupid or like Supergirl, like when they started out, when they were kind of being heavy-handed about, oh, girls can do anything guys can do, I just like, which kind of made me cringe. I was like, show don't tell. She did this very well, and I was very impressed with it. And like and all the Amazonians were like trained like they could like kick anybody's ass. But anyway, this is like one of the coolest action sequences in the movie, in which when Steve says you can't go into no man's land, you can't save everybody, and that's when she being strong-willed as she is, she charges into it and has the whole thing in the battlefield where in the trailer we see her like deflect the bullets and using her shield to deflect the gunfire from the German soldiers, and then Steve, Samir, and everybody, they're able to charge in, and I just charge in to liberate this place called Vled, and there's even this cool sequence with a callback to when the Amazons jumped on a shield and one of them leaped into the air to be able to fire an arrow. Steve and company are able to do the same trick with like a door from a tank, and she leaps, and it was so cool to see Diana leap onto it and just wreck this tower, completely take out this sniper, and everybody kind of had their own like little quirks. I mean, Samir was the master of disguise. Charlie was like the sharpshooter who was suffering from PTSD, and he was drinking, and which is why he wasn't able to completely do his task. And then you had the chief, who was a Native American who traded on both sides of the war, and somebody that Diane could relate to in a sense of feeling alienated from from their respective people. Granted, his was sadly almost wiped out to near extinction, and I don't know. I just feel, maybe they're not all as fleshed out, but I just feel like it's probably the most like Diana was probably the most multifaceted female character I've seen since Jessica Jones, and she wasn't afraid to be strong. She had this, like I said, this idealism. She wasn't afraid to be vulnerable. She had this childlike wonder and idealism, but it was kind of crushed when she killed Danny Houston, thinking that it was Ares in human form, and realized that Dr. Poison and company were still going to launch that mustard gas on the plane, and realized that it was Daniel Thewlis, I think is his last name, who he played like Remus Lupin in the Harry Potter series, but he was also acting as a member of the Allies as a member of like the British, not like the British Army, but I guess the British leaders, and he turned out to be Ares in human form, and saying that he only whispers in people. He only gave the Germans the idea to create the mustard gas and the gas that Danny Houston was using to increase his strength and getting all these black veins and black eyes. But he only provided inspiration. Their choice to carry out these horrible atrocities was entirely their own free will. And combined with Steve Trevor saying maybe mankind is just capable as bad as human as all these atrocities that are as good of their own free will. It's like she's completely shocked by this, almost to the point where she's willing to like not even like help humanity, and even like Ares is trying to like corrupt her to her side and help them like basically just wipe out humanity and in order to usher in this era of peace in his own twisted way. And this when she's about to like lift up this tank and crush Dr. Poison, she decides that you're a fucked up individual, but you're not worth dying for. You're not worth killing, especially after Steve's heroic sacrifice, that it inspires her to not completely lose faith in humanity. And I guess the only gripe you might have with the ending is that it's very like CGI heavy and over the top when you and especially might be a little jarring for some people. If especially if you were so used to all the action sequences were much more like stunt heavy and also like the actor and also I just felt like I'm just so used to like the Injustice Gods Among Us incarnation that and having his like demonic voice that was kind of weird just having him speaking in the normal like David Thewlis's voice and only like only he has like a demonic voice like very briefly, but I mean she's a superhero and there's also like a half Greek god, so she's naturally able to channel like all of the lightning from Ares into her bracelets and basically deflects it back at him to basically obliterate him. And which is kind of odd because like they're trying to say that people are capable of good and bad their own free will, but then all of a sudden it's like the German soldiers who survived the whole thing like take off their masks like a sign of relief and then just everybody decides to stop fighting. So it kind of sends a mixed message about it, and you feel like Diane's kind of accepted the fact that humanity is flawed, but they're still worth fighting for. But based on her dialogue and how she reacts, how she copes with that, it just seems like it's at odds with the fact that she seems like so distraught by what she's seen, and that you would think that she continued her heroics after the war and not just like retired until the events of Batman v Superman. So that was a little bit jarring. But I mean, other than that, like I said, Gal Gadot, she is Wonder Woman. She is fantastic in this role, like completely like very well cast, and showed off a whole range of emotions, and this was perfect casting. I can't say enough. Like she's a badass. I can't wait to see more sequels, more of her in Justice League. Even though I have measured optimism about it just because it's Zack Snyder directing, but this is like a kick-ass character. This is really a kick-ass character for sure, and now like the whole world gets to see that, and I'm just blown away by this. This was everything I wanted this to be and more. I fucking love this movie so dearly. I love Gal Gadot in this role so dearly. Like, she is Wonder Woman. She's fantastic. She's just amazing. I just can't get enough. I'm gonna go see this again. I have to go see this again. She's just for her performance alone, she's fantastic in this role. Like, my God. Anyway, guys, what did you think of this movie? Do you think Gal Gadot is like the Wonder Woman for this generation? What do you think of Steve Trevor? Just what are your likes, dislikes? Probably very few of the latter. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you going to see this again? If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.